equipped with a silencer. He shot Thompson twice at close range. The second shot came as Mr. Thompson turned and faced the defendant. The defendant did this as everyday New Yorkers walked nearby, and while the rest of the city woke up to start their day. Mangione then ran away, leaving Mr. Thompson to die. The defendant committed this murder in an attempt to draw public attention to his dislike of certain businesses. But we live in a civilized society governed by the rule of law. We debate, we disagree, we protest. We do not commit murder. No grievance, political belief, or ideological cause can ever justify murder. There can be no celebrity in assassination. Any person who celebrates, encourages, or excuses actions like these is fundamentally wrong. Mangione attempted to send a public message through violence, but the message that emerges today is very different. Violence is not a legitimate instrument to promote any political or social message. And those who resort to violence in an effort to advance their beliefs will be prosecuted, convicted, and put in jail. Today, the Southern District of New York, together with our law enforcement partners, writes the final chapter of Mangione's federal prosecution. Now, he stands convicted in federal court and faces life in prison. One other point that's important to note. While the defendant pled guilty, our office does not have a plea agreement with him. Instead, he pled open, which means he pled guilty to all pending counts in the indictment. There are no accommodations or concessions, and we are free to seek the maximum penalty under the law. I'd like to thank the dedicated prosecutors of our office's Violent Organizations and Crime Unit, who are beside me, for their remarkable efforts to bring this case. I would also like to thank the NYPD and the FBI, whose tireless and incredibly sophisticated investigative efforts made this conviction possible. Finally, I want to express on behalf of all of us here our deepest sympathy and compassion for the many family members and friends of Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson's family and many of his friends were in court for the guilty plea today. I know they will have an opportunity to be heard at sentencing. We all stand in awe of their love for their family and for their friend, and their unwavering commitment to seeing justice done in this case. We hope they can take some solace in the fact that from the beginning, we have brought the full force of the federal government to bear in this case. In this prosecution, we have consistently pursued the maximum penalties under the law as necessary and just punishment for these crimes. The result achieved today now allows our office to seek the maximum penalty allowed, life imprisonment, which, as I've conveyed to Mr. Thompson's family, is what we intend to seek. I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Tisch.
Good afternoon. Thank you, U.S. Attorney McDonald, and thank you to the prosecutors and the federal law enforcement partners who have worked alongside the New York City Police Department throughout this case. Today, Luigi Mangione pleaded guilty in connection with the murder of Brian Thompson on a Midtown Manhattan sidewalk in December of 2024. This is an important moment of accountability, and my thoughts remain first and foremost with Mr. Thompson's family and everyone who knew and loved him. But I also want to take a few minutes today to recognize the extraordinary police work that brought us here. From the moment that Mr. Thompson was assassinated on the morning of December 4th, the NYPD mobilized an enormous investigative effort. Our detectives combed through thousands of hours of surveillance video, followed up on hundreds of tips, and worked through an extraordinary volume of forensic and digital evidence. They used some of the most sophisticated technology available to law enforcement, and they paired it with the kind of painstaking, old-fashioned detective work that has defined the New York City Police Department for generations, interviewing witnesses, canvassing neighborhoods, retracing the suspects' movements, and pursuing every viable lead. Most importantly, they developed a clear image of the man we were looking for and got that image out to the public and to law enforcement agencies across this country 5 days after the murder. That work paid off in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where an alert member of the public recognized Mangione and local police took him into custody. That was not simply a lucky break. It was the culmination of 5 days of relentless investigative work that gave the public the information it needed to recognize the suspect and gave our law enforcement partners what they needed to act. This case began with the worst kind of violence on our streets. It was answered by the very best of the New York City Police Department. To every member of the NYPD who played a role in this investigation, you should be enormously proud for bringing us to this day. And to those who idolize Luigi Mangione, I say this: violence is not a cause, murder is not a message, and a killer is certainly not a hero. Now I'd like to introduce the FBI's Assistant Director in Charge for the New York Field Office, Jim Barnacle.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good day.
Live from New York.
My name is James Barnacle. I'm the Assistant Director in Charge of the FBI New York Field Office. I want to begin by addressing the family, friends, and colleagues of Brian Thompson. We had the chance to sit down with the family this morning, and they are still grieving, and they have been grieving for almost 2 years as Brian was taken away in the most heinous way possible. They lost a son, a brother, a husband, and a father, and a friend to many colleagues and other people.
All right, we're going to hit a quick
Family
break here. When we
deserves
come back, we'll talk a little bit about what we've heard. I think some great points have been made here in terms of those who made this murderer a hero. I can't help but when I think of this case to also think of the Charlie Kirk case. We had so many people acting like this was, and generally on the left, although there were some people on the right who were also said demented things when Brian Thompson was killed. But we really do need to focus on the victims, on moving forward, and on making sure anybody who has made these killers a hero, that they are condemned in every possible way, through every possible medium. Anytime we see it. I remember signing online and seeing people talk about Brian Thompson's death like it was the start of something. Maybe he was on to something. And it's just such a disgusting, brain rot way to live, to actually think that this man was a hero. And yet we had online over and over again people celebrating his actions as if he had gone up and taken up some righteous cause. That's not what he did. And that's not the way we change things in this nation. That's not the way we exercise our First Amendment rights. We don't go out there and say, we don't like your business model and therefore we will kill you, we will hunt you. And that's what he did in this case. He stalked and hunted Brian Thompson. Imagine being, not only does Brian Thompson's family have to live like this, but those who are also in other fields, they're having, whether it's the insurance business or any other industry, that they have a target on their back, and that they could see people out there celebrating this act of violence. It's crazy to think about. All right, they have wrapped up the press conference that is in the Manhattan Federal Court in New York City. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, feel free to call in or send us a message on the text line with your thoughts on this. They still will have the sentencing to go, but this is a big step forward in this case and for the victims' families. All right, back in just a minute. You're listening to The Line with Apryl Marie and John Bird. Back in a second. Well, good morning, everyone. Apryl Marie here, filling in for Andrew on this Friday afternoon. There's so much to talk about. It's kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. A lot going on, not just around the country, and we got stuff going on here in the state. I mentioned so we had Beth on. That was Beth Quave, by the way, on with us earlier. She was with the Daughters for the American Revolution. We are going to talk a little bit later today with Paul DeMarco, who we're going to talk some. Speaking of crime, we're going to talk about some crime and some of what he continues to be one of the biggest advocates I know for law enforcement, but also for victims of crime. To talk about what these judges are doing when judges give people, especially people repeat offenders who are in and out of cycling in and out of jail, who give them a slap on the wrist. So we'll talk about that with him. I said earlier, and I'm going to actually get into it in just a minute here, how important it is to pay attention to what your local municipality is doing. And that's across the board. I mean, every day, because I can't get out of the habit, can't break the habit, I pay attention to what's going on in Trussville, what's going on in Homewood, Hoover, Vestavia, and there's a lot happening. We are at the beginnings of budget process, and if you think, meh, they got it, I want you to know they don't, okay? Some of these municipalities don't got it. They've got people in there making decisions that are going to impact your day-to-day, whether it's what are they investing in infrastructure, how many potholes are you going to have to run over, and how long are they going to stay there, whether it's right here in Homewood, when out of their pea-picking minds, there is an idea that they should cut 6 full-time officers and cut the department by $1 million. You heard me correctly. That's happening right here in Homewood, Alabama. Police department right around the corner from the studio. It's mind-boggling. And we will get into that a little bit. If you're not following what's happening in Homewood, they had a change in their government where they shrunk their city council. They went from a mayor-council model to a council city manager position, and Cale Smith was promoted he was an engineer for the city, was promoted to interim city manager, and then later hired as the city manager. Cale has come in, and one of his recommendations has been, well, first off, there's a hiring freeze across the board. So that's impacting the fire department had a retirement. They can't promote up in that fire position, and they can't hire in for that. And then over at the police department, there are currently 2 or 3 sergeant positions open, and there are additional officer positions open. Now, the city wanted to get into, we're not defunding the police. Well, you know what? Those positions were fully funded in the last budget. Then Cale made a decision. We are not going to let you hire for them, even though they're funded. And now he's saying, actually, we're going to cut 6 positions. We're going to cut close to $1 million. Now, if you don't follow Homewood's different than a lot of other cities. Mountain Brook is very residential, not as many businesses. You don't have the Walmart, you don't have the number of gas stations, you don't have the cut-through traffic, you don't have the budding Birmingham. Right here in Homewood, if you're not familiar, and we're going to get into this a little later, they had an apartment complex that they had to go back and condemn. They had to evict people out of this complex because it wasn't Section 8 housing. It was just, air quotes, affordable, but so bad that there were rats and mold and the building quite literally falling apart. So the next time you're listening to a city council meeting and you hear people compare Homewood to Mountain Brook, you find me the last time a building had to be condemned in Mountain Brook. Go ahead, I challenge you. Hey, Cale Smith, I challenge you to find buildings that are literally falling apart around the residents of Mountain Brook, and you're not going to do it. Find me the Walmart. I'd like to see the Walmart in Mountain Brook. Not happening. Vestavia, the same way. They have their own unique needs. And so I am riled up. I'm in a fighting mood to defend the law enforcement officers and the first responders here in Homewood. If you're not familiar with my background, I talk about it every now and again. I have such a big heart for your police departments. As a 14-year-old girl, I would throw on a Police Explorer uniform with my little badge and everything, if you can imagine it, John Bird. They did. They, in fact, gave us badges. It was adorable. We had call numbers. My call number was, so the officers were 7 digits, so it'd be like officer, and then you got a lower digit the higher you went up in rank. And my Police Explorer number was 911. So I was 911. It was cute.
Wow.
I don't know why they didn't skip that, but it was something that was meaningful. So when I did get promoted when I did get promoted, because we had promotions there, then what would happen is they would change your number to a lower number, and I was like, I kind of want to stay 911. Like, this is so fun. But yes, so the sergeants would get lower numbers, and I was like, I don't want a lower number. I don't need to be 906 or 907. I want to stay 911.
You're moving up in the world.
I know. But at any rate, so I went to college on a community service scholarship for time I put in to the police department. The amount of the appreciation that I have for law enforcement, for the day-to-day job, the idea that here in the city of Homewood, they're going to have 2 officers per shift cut, that's insanity. That is pure insanity. And I don't care if you're an engineer, I don't care if you're an attorney, I don't care what your background is, you sell insurance. It does not take a rocket scientist to look at what's happening at Homewood. Look at the population that comes in during the day and then leaves. Look at the population that travels through in terms of the Birmingham side of things, and then to say it's the same as some of the other municipalities around here. Mind-boggling. I want you guys to pay close attention to whatever it is your city is doing. And again, that goes through to Trussville, that goes through to Hoover. We're actually going to talk to some people from Hoover a little later this morning in terms of what they've got going on. They have some big expansions happening there. So again, later on in the show, we're going to talk to Finn Church, who is fighting Alabama Power for the eminent domain case. We're going to talk to Paul DeMarco, who is one of my dearest friends, literally just a wonderful guy. And we may have a surprise guest for you guys. I'm working on a little something during the breaks here. So we will get those people in today. You are listening to Apryl Marie for Andrew Mclain. The phone lines are open. Feel free to give us a call or to send us a text. John Bird and I hanging out and holding down the fort for Andrew. Back in a second. Oh, good morning, everyone. Apryl Marie here, filling in for Andrew. John Bird trying to keep me out of trouble. John Bird has the caffeine from the Frappuccino kicked in. There's lots of smiles happening over there. Uh, if you missed it earlier, AJ is so healthy, and then Steve isn't necessarily on the health kick, but he's just not as entertaining to give sugar to. It's what, you don't take this the wrong way. It's kind of like a gremlin. Like I give you sugar and then I just wait for the response.
Yes, yes, it's easy. Sugar in, explosiveness out.
It's fun. So yes, we have a lot to talk about today. Do you have any adventures coming up? What is going on in John Bird world?
I'm taking it easy with this knee thing.
Yes.
So I've taken the month off from playing out live to do some reworking of the show. But and then we were going to do the podcast over the line last night, but you
were hobbling.
Bad.
Is it painful?
Extremely painful.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's but we had a listener who's a good friend of mine who brought me some of the good stuff by.
Oh, nice.
So I'm doing better, but it wears you down.
I do have to say, when was the podcast where you didn't have a shirt on? Was that pretty recent?
Which one?
I feel like I tuned in. I caught part of. Now I have to look. Did you say which one?
Yeah.
Is this a frequent thing? Am I missing John Bird doing podcasts without clothes?
No, not frequent. Sometimes if Andrew plays a lot of heavy liberal clips, I get really angry. And there was one time where I couldn't take it anymore. So I ripped my shirt off and ran out of the room.
Yeah, this is one he posted 15 hours ago.
Okay, yeah, that's the one with me with the tie.
And you have a tie with no shirt. Are you moonlighting at Chippendales?
Yeah, no, not anymore.
It's
believe me.
not with the broken leg.
Yeah, not with the broken leg and the extra weight. No,
Lord,
I don't want to be Chris Farley.
Lord have mercy. I'm sure listeners to this show are watching the podcast, but yes, I caught that clip as I was doing some show prep yesterday and was like, I watched a little bit of the clip and I was like, I don't even know in what context John Bird is undressed here.
Yes.
Yes, it just happens.
Yeah. It was to get a response out of our guest, who's a national guest, and the idea was I started out dressed really nice, and then the next time the camera comes to me, or like a few minutes later, I have no shirt and a jacket. So that was the whole idea, is to catch his attention.
Did it work?
Yes, it did. And he
I have no
yeah,
words.
he grilled me pretty good on that.
I have no words for what's happening here. And Andrew can't keep a straight face to save his life, which is even better. For those of you who don't know where Andrew is today, I'm just going to drop some hints out there. Earlier this week, Andrew was telling you about things going on in Blount County and Blount County Sheriff's Office. A lot of people upset over the Locust Fork school resource officer being reassigned, and then some kind of craziness with online rumors started happening. And then the sheriff announced he wasn't running for re-election.
That was wild.
And then almost immediately, he told a couple media people, no, I'm not running for re-election, but I'm going to serve out my term. And then over the course of one single day, he then wrote and I wrote this on 1819 News. So if you don't read 1819 News, I covered this there. Then he came back and said, actually, I'm looking for another job. And as soon as I get one, I'm turning in my resignation to the governor. She'll get to make an appointment here. So I'm not, and I don't want to, spoil any fun, but the governor is going to get to appoint somebody to be sheriff. And there is a race that is, every man for himself. And this is where Andrew's originally from. And so connect the dots how you want to.
I wonder where he is today.
I wonder
is he at the courthouse
where he
in Blount County? I don't know
what he's doing today. All I know is that a deputized John Bird seems like mischief and mayhem waiting to happen.
It's the Andy Griffith Show all over again.
It's going to be so great. Here's a funny story. So I've been talking about my love and appreciation for law enforcement. They really, I cannot overstate how important it is to have a fully functional and funded police department. But I joke, one of the things when I got to Alabama, because I really I locked in. I moved here in 2013, And I was like, I don't know anything about Alabama politics. Good, I'm going to figure it out. And one of the first things that made me scratch my head, beyond the Speaker of the House, who was reelected Speaker while he was going through all of his criminal charges, that was insane to me. But one of the other things that caught my attention was the office of constable, and how you can get elected as a constable in this state with darn near no votes. Like, it is the easiest office to get elected to. And I don't know if you've seen some of the constables, but I encourage you to look up your constable, because you might be surprised. But I would joke about me running for constable, and for the sole purpose. Now, this is going to tick off some people, but I'm okay with that. I say controversial things all the time. But for the sole purpose of being able to sit in the park near my house in the playground and be able to ticket jerks who had dogs off leash who would jump on children. I cannot tell you how many of my neighbors stopped going to the playground and the park because so many people cannot follow leash laws and have dogs who cannot behave, and those dogs knock down toddlers, or menacing, or chasing other dogs, or doing other things. It is one of my most random pet peeves in the world. If your dog does not behave, is not trained, it should be on leash all the time. And there are people who are like, every dog should be on leash all the time. That's the law. I get it. But the dogs that you cannot control, that is so beyond the pale for me. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. So I've thought about running. There's my brush. Never thought about running for sheriff, but have thought about actually running for constable so that I could write tickets to the people in the park. That's how petty my dog thing is. But they have taken over the park, they being dog owners, and made it a dog park where it's not actually a dog park. It's just a regular park. But it's very frustrating to me. All right, end of that rant. So we have seen some of what's going on in New York City with the Mangione case. We listened to some of the prosecutors there talk about what happened, and it was quite surprising and quite telling. I feel like when it comes to violent acts, two murders, two crimes have been incredibly telling of what people's response was, especially for those of us in politics, especially for those of us paying attention to the news cycle and to what people are saying online. But Brian Thompson's death brought out some of the worst in people who really looked at this and was like, his company made so much of a profit, and there were so many issues with the company, and they almost I don't want to say negated, but they really diminished the value of his life based on the job he had. They diminished the how insane it is for someone to stalk and hunt like they were actually hunting prey, like it was just a deer or something. Stalk and hunt an executive of a company and then cold-blooded kill him. And they were online and they were cheering this on and saying that they could understand and they have sympathy for the shocking, appalling. It's disgusting. That's what that was. And then we saw it again with Charlie Kirk's death and Charlie Kirk's assassination. And for me, watching people who I know from the left, because I have a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle. And how do we do that? Well, we just don't talk about politics. Is that possible? Is that something you can do? Abso-freaking-lutely. You should try it sometime if you haven't. You can have friends that vote the other way. Your vote cancels their vote out. And you can have conversations about things that maybe aren't as controversial and where you can learn from one another on them. And so I have a lot of friends who are on the left who, during Charlie Kirk's death, immediately following the assassination, I thought to myself, would they be saying this about me? I wholeheartedly, with every fiber of my being, support the group Moms for Liberty. I am an active paying member. I own the merch. I support them. Would somebody be out there saying Moms for Liberty is on the SPLC hate list and therefore she had it coming if I was killed? I wholeheartedly think that the farce that is men putting on a dress or a basketball uniform or whatever it is and saying they're women, I think that's mental illness. And then to support it, you also have to be either mentally ill or stupid or maybe just trying to gaslight the rest of us. There's a couple of options for people who support that. But I'm wholeheartedly against that. Does that make me somebody who should be a target? And to the left, it does. So too many So many on the left. It was, well, it shouldn't have happened, but do you know his view on DEI hires? Do you know his view, talking about Charlie Kirk now, on a traditional marriage? Do you know his, and you're going, there's no but, there's no what about. Same with Brian Thompson's death. Oh, well, it's a tragedy. But do you know what his company does? Do you know what his company did to my aunt, cousin, brother, sister, me? Do you know what deny? Like, that's not a justifiable excuse. And so many people acted as if it were. And I don't think we should just let them off the hook quite yet. I think that we need to make sure we are aware of who in our social circle it said it was okay for these things. There's a group, and there's actually a story about the group FIRE. It's a free speech group. There's a story on 1819 News about them today. They were out there defending teachers' rights to celebrate Charlie Kirk's death and acting as there should be no consequences for that. Like, we as parents should be like, you know, that teacher over there, she said, good, we need more people to be killed, more people who think like him to be killed. But she should be allowed in a classroom because First Amendment rights. No! What are you thinking? Who are these people? Yeah, you have a right to say it, but you do not have a right to keep your job if your job is one where you're shaping other minds, you're saving lives, any of that. We saw that following the attacks on Israel. Healthcare workers out there celebrating the rapes and death of Jewish people. Oh yeah, they were that we needed. What in the world? Who are you, and why on earth do you think this is okay to think and believe? Really, this case has me fired up because it makes me really angry to think that we live in a place, in a time, where there are still people who feel like they can put a hero status on the killer of Brian Thompson, put a hero status on the killer of Charlie Kirk. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, CNN's talking about it. Let's talk about it too. Data centers and their impact on campaigns and their impacts on our communities. Hold tight. It's Apryl Marie filling in for Andrew. Well, good morning, everyone. Apryl Marie here, filling in for Andrew, who's on a top secret mission y'all should hear about on Monday. What that top secret mission is? Well, if I told you, it wouldn't be top secret. Kind of spy am I. All right, before we go on to other subjects, Lyle from Hoover is on the line. Let's see what Lyle has to say. How are you today?
Hey, Apryl Marie, how's it going?
That's good.
I was going to I don't know if you had a chance, because I know that, you guys are all busy, and I'll be honest with you, I only caught snippets of this, but did you happen to catch the quote-unquote interview that Tucker Carlson did with Hunter Biden?
I caught parts of it that were posted on X. Neither of these two people are my favorite at the moment. It seems like there's a whole lot of crazy going on a particular side of the conservative movement.
Well, what I thought was so funny was, I know a lot of people will go out there, and I hear from a lot of people, oh, AIPAC needs to do, and I get it. I'm all for that. But the problem when I watch Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Megyn Kelly or any
They're
of these
insufferable
people,
right now.
Well, they're insufferable, but everything it's the Jews. It's the Jews. And I'm like, y'all sound like my crazy uncle after he's had one drink and wants to go, there's no gold in Fort Knox. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be over here if you need me. It's like, I don't want to hear this. It's because it's stupid. And it doesn't make any sense. But what I think is so funny, and I find it interesting, they always say, well, we want foreign influence out of our government. Okay, we all can agree with that. Why are you guys not saying anything about China or Russia or Qatar or Saudi Arabia? These people, if you look at the listings, I'm not a fan of AIPAC. I mean, as far as I can tell, they can jump off a cliff for all I care. But they're just focusing on that. But they're like 9 out of all of these. China and Russia and Qatar are the top 3. You're not saying one word about them. And why?
It is insane to me to, in real time, watch people as a conservative commentator who have had their moment, right? Because all 3 of the people you talk about, you just mentioned, Megyn Kelly has been an utter disappointment, okay? When it came to Candace attacking Erica, she went way off the deep end there. And then she started with the anti-Israel stuff, and it was like, whoa, who are you? Well, it was somebody who was trying to get some of the spillover clicks from Candace. Candace has always been cuckoo bananas, but really we're really starting to see just how cuckoo bananas she is. If you are a Candace supporter, I want to say right now, get yourself out of the cult, because that's what it is. That's what it's become. She contradicts her own self, and as you mentioned, everything's about the Jewish people now. And she is just a hot freaking mess. And then Tucker's one where, man, I had been a Tucker fan for so long. And 1819 News brought him. He headlined our gala a couple of years ago. It might have even been last year, for that matter. I really just had such a deep respect for some of the really in-depth conversations that Tucker had. And then he really started going and contradicting himself, and he really started buying into the everything's a Jewish conspiracy, and that's been a shame to watch.
Well, it's so strange, because I know, and I'm one of those people too. I remember when Tucker was on Fox, and then he broke off and he started his own network. But it's so funny to watch these people, because literally it is. Now, there are people, I will say, 1819 News, you, Leland, Dixon and Vining, Andrew, everybody that'll be like, look, I'm in it for this. I'm going to tell you what my opinions are, and I'm not beholden to anybody. But with these people, you can clearly see it never was about the truth. It's always been about either the clicks, it's being the notoriety or the power or having the money. And the funny thing about it is, and I know people will laugh and say, oh, gosh, he's bringing Christianity into this. But no, it's true. It's like Jesus says, what does it profit a person to sell their soul for the world? And when I look at these 3, I'm like, that's what you've done. Oh. You basically just sold your soul just for notoriety. That's all you've done.
Lyle, you're hitting the nail on the head here. Candace Owens specifically, there is something demonic, something purely evil. And then she went crazy when everybody started pointing that out. But there's something purely evil about the saying, oh, saying, Charlie came to me in a dream and told me that his best friends and his wife had something to do with his murder. Now, that's paraphrasing here, folks, but that's basically, I had this vision, I had this idea, I had this thought, and it's all inspired by a dream, and I'm the only one searching for his killer. No, she's searching for clicks and money, and she's already been sued by Charlie's security guard for defamatory statements, and I hope she is just sued right down to where the only thing she has is the ability to care for her children. I would never wish her to be destitute with, and she won't be with her husband's money. But I want every last penny that she has made off of exploiting Charlie's death. I want her to lose it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No two ways about it. It is absolutely sickening what she has done.
I totally agree, and I just think I would tell anybody that's listening this, and I had to tell myself this a long time ago. These people that you see online, they are not your friends.
No,
they're doing all this for whatever reasons. The only thing I always say is people will say, "Well, then who do you believe?" I listen to you guys, and I look at the evidence, and then I make my own decisions. Anybody out here, if you are following this cult, please don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
That's all I'm asking.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for calling, Lyle. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Y'all have a good one.
You know, he brings up a very valid point. These have turned into these were rational and sane voices at one point. I say that about Candace. Maybe she just controlled the crazy a little longer than most people imagine she would. I truly believe that there is something very, very wrong with her, something to the theories that she needs the money, or she's gotten into the point where now she has gotten so much money from YouTube revenue and X revenue and social media revenue that she's just drunk with that and is allowing it to really just push her into more and more craziness. We know who Charlie Kirk's killer was, and we know what she's been doing. All right, we are going to take a quick break here. When we come back, more with Apryl Marie. Back in a second.